Thank you for watching Conscious Consumer Network. The live stream broadcast is free to view. You can pause and rewind live broadcasts to catch up, or view shows at a later date by accessing our free archives of all shows. Check out our broadcast guide to see what's on. You can show your support by donating to our network support fund. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribe to the monthly newsletter for updates. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
I was diagnosed with ADHD around second grade, and when I was diagnosed, we started getting different medications for it until I found the right one.
Having asthma can sometimes be a little bit of a pain because you have to stop in the middle of what you're doing to, go take your inhaler or something, and if you're in the middle of a class, it can kind of be disruptive.
I've been put on medication so that my asthma acts up less frequently.
I've had diabetes for 5 years now, and I'm hoping there's a cure. I go for the walk every year.
Every morning when I wake up, I have to take my inhaler, and every evening before I go to bed, I have to take my inhaler.
I have depression, so I take pills and stuff to help me keep myself happy.
A challenge is definitely being able to focus even while on my medicine. I have to do a lot to maintain focus and to stay on task and stay on track.
I've really always been used to getting shots and stuff like that because I'm always in the hospital. Don't ask me why, but it's a thing. I'm always getting sick, and I'm the only one in the house that usually gets sick.
Some things that have helped with my depression, well, obviously the medication, but my friends have been a big part of helping, because it's always nice because I feel more open with my friends to talk about stuff that I probably wouldn't talk with my parents about.
I try mostly to eat healthy foods, but a lot of times, like when you're in a rush, because a lot of times I'm coming from school and going straight to a dance class, I might get some fast food on the way.
One way I take care of my health is trying to exercise, and I do that through dance. I love to dance.
It depends on the day for exercising. Sometimes I have to push myself, but in the end, I always end up feeling better.
I eat healthy. Before I ever had diabetes, I always ate healthy. I don't really drink soda. My parents always buy me water.
Any opportunity I get, I go outside and start running up and down the street just so I can work my legs out.
I just like that I have a dog that I can always go and kick the soccer ball with.
Hi, I'm Faith.
Hi, I'm Gavin.
Hi, I'm Lauren.
Hi, I'm Shelby.
And hi, I'm Willow, and this is You Subjects of the World.
And today we are talking about health. All right. So this is a very broad topic, I believe. I mean, this can go into many different areas. What to eat to make you healthy, exercise, mental health. I don't know. Where do you guys want to take this conversation?
Something I was thinking about asking you guys, what do you guys think about vitamins? Do they actually help, or is it just this will help you? I got all these different teen vitamins and stuff, and it's does it actually work, or are they just saying that?
I think vitamins help in the sense that eating vegetables with different vitamins and minerals in them is not a bad thing. Like that is a great thing too, to be healthy. But I have never liked the idea of the one a day stuff. Like they eat these gummies and it's all you need. Like that, I think that's probably phony. There's probably
Yeah,
more
I have
sugar.
been doing gummies, but then like I got these. I
Huh?
don't know if the camera's focusing on that, but
Like a supplement?
yeah, it's like food-based multivitamin. So it has like all these different vegetables and stuff mixed into it.
Huh.
I think
Like, I don't
supplements are
know.
good. Like it's just like supplementing what you would normally get from vegetables, which you could say is what a vitamin is. But like just what we think of when we think of vitamins, like the gummies, like that stuff. I don't like that, but supplements like, B12, and taking vitamin D supplements because you might not get out in the sun enough. Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I
was
agree on
taking
the...
vitamins for a little bit, and it's like I don't think that was helping. I don't know. It just seemed less healthy or something.
I know for me, I, long ago started taking the 2 gummy vitamins a day. And I mean, it's become such like routine that I don't even think about it anymore. But now that you bring it up, it is interesting. Is it actually doing anything for me, or is it just eating 2 gummy bears a day? Like
I don't really take vitamins at all. I mean, I eat a lot of my food currently is pizza because it's free. But I know all the health nuts out in the world, it's like, why? Stop now. But it's free. It takes down the cost of living so we can have more things we want. And who doesn't like free pizza? But really, after 8 months, it gets a little boring. But I don't take vitamins. I eat my amount of vegetables through tacos. And I just live a life, no vitamins needed.
I don't do vitamins too much, but I know that some are important, like B12 if you do like vegan or something and you can't really get enough B12 because it's more animal stuff with eggs and milk and meat and all that. The only types of vitamins, well, maybe vitamins, supplements I've done is vitamin B, I think it was, with the sun in December, just because my mom says it kind of does help with not feeling as depressed and sad all the time. So that's like the only one I've ever done.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Has anyone had any personal experience with a lot of health issues?
No one.
But I have.
Okay, well, go ahead.
I am a strep throat carrier. I'm not sure if any of you know what strep throat is.
I actually had strep throat once.
You get pus pockets, white pus pockets on your uvula. That's one of the symptoms. And it makes everything, like when you swallow things, even if it's on your own saliva, it feels like glass going down your throat. I carry that. Like, my body can manifest that out of thin air. Its favorite thing to do that with, I know a lot of you are like, what? How? Why? But its favorite way to do that is when I get stressed out. I used to get stressed out a lot going over to my dad's. And so, mainly by his wife, by my stepmom. Didn't like her, don't like her. So I got stressed out and I would get sick. Now, I had strep throat 13 times. Usually after 7 times, they're supposed to remove your tonsils. This happened over the course of 2 years. And so it was like off and on, so they didn't really think very much about it. They knew I was a strep throat carrier because when I got a tooth crown for one of my cavities, I heard my mom on the phone talking about how they were going to just like have me awake the entire time and I was going to have like someone drilling at my teeth. So I got super stressed out about that as a 6-year-old and manifested pneumonia and strep throat at the same time. And yeah, it's quite an insane story and not really believable, but it did happen a lot.
Wow.
So is that something you're born with? Like you're just born with the, as a strep throat carrier?
I think so.
Huh.
Probably genetics. And
Yeah.
I don't think it is. Maybe. I don't know. I know.
Well, do you know if there's anyone in your family who's had it before, even like if it's not like your
Nope.
mom or no?
Not that I know of. I also have eczema. If I roll up my sleeve, you can see all over my arm. Like probably not, but it's covered.
That's not
Got
fun.
eczema from my shoulder down to my elbow. It's just all eczema. After after my entire life having it, when I turned like 10, I stopped like caring about it completely. So it doesn't bother me. But if I occasionally like have like a tiny little itch, I'll itch it and then I'll immediately regret it because then it'll spread like wildfire.
Oh wow.
I'm just
It
curious,
also
is there anything like you put on the eczema like to help it?
Lotion. I have really sensitive skin, so only certain lotions work.
How about aloe?
Never tried aloe.
I want to try that.
That could be good.
Maybe.
Works on sunburn, so.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any crazy stories about health?
I guess this is more mental health because I don't really have much other health stuff. But it's not really me, but more in my family. Stuff like depression, anxiety, and being bipolar runs in my family. And it's more on one side. It's not really serious, but like my aunt, all her children all had extremely bad depression. And they weren't even able to actually do some stuff properly because of it. And a lot of them ended up like cutting and stuff like that. So that's as much as I have for like health stuff like in my family.
Wow.
Anyone ever tried any crazy diets? I was paleo with my mom for a little bit.
Yeah, that opens up a really interesting conversation. Like, what does
Yes.
everyone think of diets, or what's the best diet in your opinion, like to be healthy?
I think it's different for everyone, honestly.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
once watched a small documentary on what foods were being marketed in America that were generally banned or at least reduced on the shelf in other countries, such as, what was it? Well, I did notice that wheat bread, how wheat bread is always marketed as the more healthy option between like white bread and wheat bread. It's actually, in certain doses, it's the exact same amount of unhealthy. It's being marketed as this complete like end all be all for healthy dieting, but it really has to do with the fructose corn syrup and the amounts of that within the foods we eat, that's the main cause for, I don't know, why people go on diets.
Oh man, I do think it does depend on the person. I mean, there is some science behind it. The metabolic type, which I don't know all the details of, but it kind of relates to your ancestry, like where the people and your ancestors, existed in the world, or where they were in the world, can really, dictate what your body can process. Because if your ancestry is an area with a lot of meat or fish and bread, and that's just mainly what it is, you'll be able to process that better than somebody whose ancestors mainly grew up on corn and vegetables. So it really does depend on the person. I mean, there are some people really like veganism, and I think that's fine. I personally don't. I think meat is there's no problem with meat. I think there's some problems with the meat industry in this country, but that's a different conversation.
Absolutely.
What I really have a problem with, and I think this just applies in general, like this doesn't really matter. Your ancestry doesn't really matter in this, but refined sugars and carbs, I'm pretty sure, are just in general not really a good thing. That's like the main thing that you should cut out of your diet if possible. And probably dairy, not the end of the world, but it's not great.
Well, I think it's more saturated fat than anything with fats or bad fats. But definitely with where ancestries and stuff, I think, do come in. But for me, personally, I don't do well with dairy or meat very well. And I did this thing for a while. It wasn't like too serious, but I just tried a whole bunch of different stuff. Like I tried paleo, I tried being vegan, vegetarian, all kinds of stuff just to kind of see how I would react to it. And the ones that like made me actually feel sick were the ones where the main components of the whole diet was just meat and fat and dairy and stuff like that. And so I kind of learned that that's not what I should eat. It's not a good idea.
I tried being paleo, and what it is it's just fruit, vegetables, and meat. Anything you can grow / kill in your backyard, you can eat. But my mom was doing it because she wanted to lose weight. And that's what I think a lot of people's diet things is they want to lose weight or they want to be healthy. And I did it because it sounded fun. It sounded like a new change and it was cool. I quite enjoyed it. We tried making cookies, which consisted of coconut milk, coconut flour, and raw cane sugar. It was very delicious. Also, they turned really hard after 20 minutes. So it was eat them while they're fresh out of the oven or don't. It was and
Sounds
we
pretty good.
also learned how to look, like what to look for and what's healthy and what's not healthy and how to look at labels and make sure you're not eating something you don't want to eat.
That's kind of I feel that's kind of similar with being vegan is because you do have to look through labels. So with stuff like if you do like paleo or something where you actually are not supposed to eat certain things, you actually tend to look at the labels and that does help out.
Yeah.
I think kind of figuring out and finding out like what's really in food, all that good stuff.
That's something I do a lot. Like I'll look at ingredients on things, and it's interesting to see what has artificial stuff and what doesn't. And like random weird thing, toaster strudels, on the ingredients it says bleach. Yeah, literally. It's insane.
That's a little funny, and I probably have like a dark sense of humor for thinking that's funny. But
It's scary and funny at the same time.
yeah,
I mean, like,
it's
honestly,
like,
still gonna eat them, but like,
are we actually eating bleach?
Who knows?
Speaking of labels, if you can, I'd love to challenge all of you to read a Rockstar can label on like the ingredients, because there's 2 words in like the first words that like you can actually see. Here we've got carbonated water, sugar, glucose, citric acid, taurine, sodium chloride, and a bunch of other words I can't pronounce. Like you get a few words in, and then you're like, "What am I drinking?" But
all
it's
these
so delicious.
chemicals.
Yeah, all the chemicals,
All the bad stuff. And
I do think that mental health and physical health go hand in hand much of the time, because a lot of the time you'll see deteriorating mental health with people who are trying to get fit. Because what is the definition of health? It's not just the absence of illness. It's also being able to rebound from stress, and a lot of bodies need good nutrients, obviously, which is what people are trying to do to get fit. But it also has to do with the environment, your relationships, and a lot of the time when people are going crazy on these quick lose weight in like a week diets, the stress adds on to the mental toll, which then adds on to the physical toll. which adds on to the mental toll and keeps going in a vicious cycle. I know many people have had that happen to them until they stepped back and went, whoa, hold on. We actually need to get more sleep, eat better food, but eat. And I think a lot of people, if you look around you, the people that you know, that's a very common thing. Does anyone else have any input?
I'd have to say that is pretty correct with your environment and all that. But I think also staying active's good. Because if you don't stay active and all that, then you just spend your days just like at one place, just like, let's say for people who just play video games all day. They're just playing video games all day, not really doing much. And a lot of times I feel like people who do that don't even eat correct or sleep correct or stuff like that. It just kind of brings it down further, and it just affects them very much.
I agree.
Yeah,
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I believe there definitely needs to be a level of physical activity, and I implement that into my life personally. I jog whenever I feel motivated to. No, good amount. But I agree with what you were saying, Lauren. But I think the problem with that situation is it's less about the physical activity. It's more about like how they're going about it. Like there are definitely people who, get into that mindset. It's this, like, they're really stressed out about it because they feel guilty or they feel pressured by society to work out and be fit. And, that stress, that's not good. So it almost like opens up a, greater discussion about society and how we pressure people into being thin and being healthy. And like people shouldn't, feel stressed about being healthy or having to be thin.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if it was just a free environment to, be yourself. But there are also health concerns with not being healthy. And that's why the answer kind of lies in the middle. You need to exercise, you need to eat healthy, but it needs to be coming from a good place.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Because you personally feel that you want to be a better version of you for yourself.
Yeah.
You want to feel good and you want to be healthy because you want to feel awake and you don't want to feel, slow and, tired. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, I feel it's very important to actually feel self-motivated to work out, do yoga, whatever you want to do. Because like some people work out at the gym and lift and stuff like that. Some people go on walks or jogs or run. It's just personally what you want to do. And if you're able to self-motivate yourself, then that's better than feeling pressured or forced to anything into that. Because that, I think, just makes it even worse.
People should never be like pressured into losing weight or anything. And I feel like it's nice to want to be healthy, it's nice to want to lose weight, but do it for you. Only do it for yourself. Don't do it for others.
Yeah, it's like, don't do it for just because people on the internet say so, or other people look a certain way, or people in school or something.
I feel like this topic really ties into all of our previous topics we talked about.
Oh my God, there's a person who talks about how our culture treats, overweight people really well. Roxane Gay. It was she has a book, and it was a really, like, her story is incredible, but she is an overweight person. And I was listening to this audiobook. I was listening to part of it. My mom was actually listening to it, and I was listening to a good amount of it, and it was really fascinating just how we, all these shows on TV, and how they, show Black people, like oh my God, overweight people. Sorry. The show Biggest Loser. Yeah, like, I don't know where I'm going with this. Oh my God. It's not good. I'm sorry. I don't know. I've lost my train of thought. But just, all right. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's okay.
It's all good.
Oh man. Someone else start talking.
Has it switch over to a topic of hospitals? Does anyone want to pursue a career in being a doctor / nurse?
I've never thought of being a doctor or nurse, but I guess this would kind of count. I have thought about like being a therapist or something like that at one point. And of course with like mental health and all that, kind of how does it fit in? But with being a therapist, probably not my ideal job, but I've like thought about it before, and I think it would be pretty interesting job to go into. But
I agree.
I'm never sure about medical. I don't think I could be anyone in a medical field.
Yeah, I like looking at medical stuff on the internet and stuff, but I don't know if I'd be able to handle it in real life.
Has anyone been in the hospital for obscure reasons? Any obscure hospital stories?
Concussion.
Ooh, I also had a concussion, but mine was a concussion mixed with a gash in my head.
Oh, wow. How did that work out?
Yeah, seriously, what's the story behind that?
Yeah.
I was 4 and it was in Texas. I was living there for like 3 months. Dark period of my life. I decided to crawl from my mom's minivan from the back seat to the front seat without telling anybody as this tiny little child. And my mom was sitting in the front seat getting out of her seat, or getting out of her side, and then my brother was in the passenger seat getting out of the car. He closed the door on my head, and so it gashed like right here, and I had to get staples. They didn't offer me stitches.
Oh.
They offered me staples. And so, I mean, it's kind of my brother's fault, but then again, it's like 90% my fault because I didn't tell anybody, and I decided to be a smart child, and I was like, no, I'm not having it. I'm gonna crawl out the front seat. I don't want to get out of my seat. And I didn't feel like slamming the minivan door because they weren't automatic doors. You actually had to like put force into closing them.
Yeah,
So I mean, my head ping ponged between the door, like I smacked the front of the door with like the back of my head, where the door clips onto the car. That part gashed it, like pressured the back of my head, and then I flew back into the center console and then smacked him at the front of my face on the inside of the door. And luckily, there were already police and firemen and an ambulance at my house. That was also the 4th of July.
Oh, well. There's been a couple of times I've done things like that, not too bad, where like a door will hit my head when I'm getting out of a car.
The worst, like I've never been to the hospital before, but the worst that I've come close to being to the hospital is when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, when I was in school. We were going back to our classroom, and I had 2 other friends with me, and we went up the wrong hallway. I have no idea why. And so we had to get back down and then go to the other hallway. And, no, stairway, not hallway. And I was way down by the doors, and right when the other 2 were coming down, I turned around to leave. The person on the other side opened the door, and it hit me right in my forehead.
Oh.
And I was very dizzy right after it happened. And I only got like 1 drop of blood on the ground because I I cut my hand to catch all the blood. I don't know why, but it seemed a lot worse than it actually was. It was just like a little gash, but it hurt a lot. And I had to wear a big Band-Aid on my forehead for the rest of the week.
That is gnarly. It's gnarly.
That's a crazy story I haven't heard.
I knew about it. Oh, well, got hit in the head by my door, and that's the closest I ever got.
Anyone else have obscure stories of why they ended up in the hospital? Broken legs, broken arms?
I was never in the hospital, but on Halloween last year, or on the day before Halloween last year, my father got his thumb stuck in a blender.
Elaborate, please?
Yeah.
How does one do that?
Yeah, that's what I asked when I first got the text notification. So apparently my mother was making chicken salad, and she, it got clogged up, and so my dad turned it off, but didn't unplug it. So he's kind of like getting the chicken salad out of the blender, and he leans on the button. Whoop! That's bad. His thumb's great. It's good as new. It just was not a fun time. That was not a good Halloween.
I wouldn't think it would be.
That's my obscure, odd pain story.
Pain story.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, definitely.
The only other time I've ended up in the hospital for when I was 4, the head gash was stupidity. Anytime after that was an accident or sickness. Along with the strep throat, I was in the hospital a lot. But I ended up in the hospital on the 5th of July, I believe. Yeah, 5th of July. I got stung by a bee.
Are you allergic to bees?
Nope. Thought I was, though. I almost died. I felt like I was going to die. It's a very horrible experience.
Yeah,
I can see that.
My family's favorite place to hang out, though, for stupidity is the hospital. We all now carry battery banks for our phones and, like, entertainment in our bags in case something goes down.
I don't understand stuff like that, because the only experience that I've had is I wasn't even old enough to know any of this at the time, but I've heard it a lot, is when my older sister was little, she was getting pushed around in a grocery cart by my stepsister. And she decided to go really fast and try to stand on the back of the grocery cart, which ended up having my sister fall out and either dislocate or break her leg. Okay, I think it was her hip and her leg when she was 3-4 years old, maybe. And yeah, that's pretty intense.
Oh my goodness. I feel so bad for your sister now.
I'm glad she's okay. I mean,
she's fine.
Alive now.
She's alive. She's all good. But that was still pretty, bad.
But what do you guys think about getting enough rest? Because both mental and physical health goes hand in hand with how much rest a person gets. Mm-hmm. Do you guys think you get enough rest? Do you think your peers get enough rest? What do you guys think?
Well, there is the amount of rest that everyone recommends you get. That's kind of just you need to get your 8 hours of sleep, or 7 to 8 hours. But I've also been hearing lately that that's not necessarily true. What I've heard recently that it really varies, like depending on your age or depending on you as a person. Like some people need to sleep less and can actually operate really well on like 6 hours of sleep, and some people need 9 or more. Really depends on you. Like, and if you personally feel like you're not getting enough rest, you need to make changes in your life to compensate for that. You need to, like, if you're not getting enough rest because you're stressed or because your job is forcing you to wake up at a time that is not ideal for you, or your school or whatever, you either need to deal with that or you need to change something. I haven't been getting enough sleep lately, but that's just because I've been staying up really late for random reasons. But I just need to make a change, and that'd be good. So yeah.
I don't understand what you're talking about with like age and all that for getting sleep. I've heard a lot is because with being younger, because even like younger kids like babies, toddlers, teenagers, all of that is getting more sleep is better because you're still growing, so you still need to like make sure you get enough sleep and make sure all that happens. And that kind of gets messed up with school for a lot of the older kids. And so that happens a lot. But with sleep for myself, I get decent amount, either too not enough or too much, but I'm trying to get balance there.
Same.
I know for a lot of people, at least in my school, the healthiest physically and mentally, the healthiest kids are usually the kids in the middle of the pack. I am very good friends with a lot of the top students, and they get little to no sleep, and they're very stressed all the time. And I would say I'm very similar to that. I don't get much sleep. I'm very stressed all the time. And it's a lot more common. You'll see the kids in the honors classes and the AP classes freaking out all the time, sometimes crying in the middle of class. And it's because we get so much work, and that means we don't get enough sleep, which means that just it keeps spiraling. And I know that the kids in the accelerated class and in the college prep classes, they're getting less work, more time to sleep, and they have more time to exercise, do sports and extracurriculars. And they are generally the more healthy, the more happy kids. And that's just something I've noticed. Doesn't mean it's the same all across the board, but it is something interesting that I've noticed. It's a trend at my school, at least. I don't know if that's similar for you guys, but
I don't think many of us go to school here.
There was a thing that I read about how schools start too early, just like being said, and how you're not fully awake till like 12 or 1 p.m. I don't remember the actual time, but your brain is still like re-energizing when you wake up at like 6 in the morning or something.
I definitely agree with that because I on Tuesdays I go with my mom to her job or to one of her jobs, and I wake up at 7 to 8 sometimes, and then we leave around like 9. See, my mom doesn't fall asleep until like 1 to like 4 a.m. Which, I mean, it's fine. She prefers more sleep, but if she has to run on like 4 hours of sleep, she can, but then she's taking a midday nap. But I run typically about from 6 to 8 hours, and I'm fine. But I definitely agree with the thing that you're saying, that your brain isn't fully awake until like noon, or it's not really like to function until noon, because I usually get out of my mom's work around noon to 1, and then when on our car ride home, I'm awake. I'm like, let's do stuff. But the entire time we're there, I'm like, can I go home? Can I go back to bed? I want sleep, please.
Yeah, I only understand that with going to, since my parents run a farmer's market, on Saturdays, I have to be up between 5 to 6:30 in the morning and then have to stay there until 12. And most of the time, it's just like, I don't want to be up this early. I just want to go to bed. But ends up that I end up like doing everything just fine the whole entire day with just relaxing the rest of the day, because that definitely helps a lot after just the whole time just full of work and running around to help people out. But it's a lot of fun, but I don't like waking early.
At least you're having fun.
Done this since I was a little kid. Anyone got anything else for sleep?
Well, there's also the discussion about getting fulfilling sleep, like oh, should you shut off your devices like an hour before you go to sleep or turn off all screens? I think there is some truth to that. I mean, it's certainly like reading before you go to sleep or something to calm your mind down a hair, and that also takes your eyes away from a screen, whether that's a TV or your phone, really kind of slows your brain down and gets you in more of a sleep mode per se. Some people are just fine looking at screens then falling right to sleep. This is another one of those situations where it depends on the person. Like I go through phases where I will watch a ton of stuff before I go to sleep and then just go right to sleep. And then sometimes I don't sleep well, but it might just be part of being a teenager. I mean, different hormones.
The zero sleep life, man.
It's great. Oh, man. So, yeah, I think it does depend on the person, but I think there is a general idea that trying to limit the amount of screens in general before going to sleep helps with sleep for most people.
I think it could help, especially for kids who have really active minds a lot and or stay awake with insomnia. I think turning off the screens and just sitting there could help a little bit to help you fall asleep. Or in a lot of our cases, we just fall asleep with the phone in our hand. I know I do that one. But definitely try and turn off the screens. It's always nice. I also used to fall asleep with the TV on as a little 5-year-old. I got used to watching shows and being relaxed.
Yeah, I also think it depends on the person, like if you have a device or not and how you're used to living or whatever.
Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of that. A lot of times, sometimes I will fall asleep with my computer up or something, but I try not to do that. And I will do stuff like last night before I went to bed. I just cleaned up my whole sewing area, and that just made me not relaxed but tired enough to where I just went to bed and just fell asleep right away. So doing something cleaning can probably keep you up, but reading can help. Writing, anything like that, I think does work. And screens are no good.
It's funny you guys should say that, because now that I'm aware that you guys are generally not in the school environment, I have homework often until 1 o'clock in the morning. And my school is an iPad-based school, which means the screen is on at all times to do homework or to be in the group chat with a bunch of kids, what are the answers, But it is interesting because I find it's hard to go to sleep after I complete an assignment or complete the homework for the night, probably because of the blue light on the iPad or on the computer, on the phone, just affecting the brain waves that involve falling asleep. And I think that's interesting, not to mention the fact that it's much too late to be going to bed at 1 in the morning and getting up at 6:59. It's interesting that you guys would mention the devices.
I definitely have a device-based school. My schoolwork is my computer. Everything I need is kept in my computer.
Half my schoolwork is my
Totally.
computer, and half is reading something.
Yeah, reading a book. Even that is being like slowly switched to my phone and iPad.
Yes,
Slowly internet books.
bit by bit.
Back in the day when I went to school, I would get like 4 hours of homework and I'd be up like super late doing that. And my sleep schedule would not be good at all, even from books.
I just can't believe it's on iPads now. I was in school through the 4th grade, and it was just paper back then. So much has changed.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Last time I was in school, I was in 1st grade.
Wow.
Youngling, taken out of school, being homeschooled.
Last time I was in school, I was in 3rd grade, and we never did much on computers, so it was just mostly all that.
Very interesting.
I think the last time I was in school was like 5th grade. I don't know. Maybe 6th.
So it was briefly mentioned earlier, and I don't know if we want to talk about it in this episode or if we want to make a whole episode about it. But do we want to elaborate on mental health? Because that's like a huge
We
conversation.
were planning on doing a second mental health episode because
Uh,
we already did one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Part
We
2.
did? I never.
It's
All
okay.
right.
We did one mental health one, but we like briefly touched on some subjects, and there was not enough time.
I mean,
Yeah, I think-
Definitely not enough time.
like, because the mental health situation in America, or just in general, probably,
Yeah, I think we
with
can
like
do a little
today's
bit of
youth
talking.
is insane.
We could definitely touch on the mental health on this
Yeah, we
episode.
can talk about it a bit before we can go on the break. Now it'll
Yeah.
I mean, what are the numbers on that, honestly? When you go online today, you see everyone talking about, I mean, this generation specifically, all the depression and all the anxiety. It's incredible. Well, it's not incredible. It makes it sound like it's a good thing. It's insane. Oh, shit. It's quite an awful
Incredible. I feel like incredible is one of those words where it's context. You have to look for
Yes.
context clues because I say incredible when I'm talking about disasters. I'm like, wow, this was incredible, and everyone's lives was crushed. Case in point with the Hurricane Irma. That was an incredible storm. It did crush a lot of lives, drown a lot of people, but it was incredible.
The whole situation. That's a whole other topic, the world changing, but it is quite incredible.
That was the other
Yeah.
week, which would have been so much awesome if Shelby was on.
I was camping.
It's okay. With mental health, maybe we can talk about maybe anxiety or depression right now. Whichever one someone wants to start up.
I have anxiety problems. If I get I guess I have stress and anxiety problems. If I get stressed out, I get sick and I don't eat. When I get anxious, I bite my nails.
Same.
I'm not alone. I also have dyslexia. I'm visually dyslexic. Mix up my D's and B's. Used to be way worse when I was a kid. It's partly why I'm homeschooled.
I've been told by my mom, who's done a lot of research for dyslexia because my little sister's dyslexic, there you go, that with the research she's been doing on it, she said that I'm possibly a tiny bit dyslexic, probably not extremely, but there's a chance that I have some dyslexic problems. But with anxiety or depression or anything, I do have quite a bit of social anxiety. And I used to not at all. I was very open with like people and all that. But like now, like, oh, go make some friends. It's like, how do I do that?
It's like, how about I don't go make friends?
How about I don't go make friends and just talk to my already existing friends?
Which brings with the question, why is the environment that we're all living in so, is it contributing to these developments of anxiety and depression, or is it strictly genetics? I know a lot of people who are predisposed to such things. Is it just that, or is it also the
I think
environment
it
we
can
live
be
in?
a bit of both.
Yeah,
I
definitely
mean,
a mix of both.
I definitely
Like
think
being
it is.
conditioned, all that.
I feel like for the anxiety part, especially with social anxiety, it's definitely the society we live in.
Mm-hmm. Because like, I won't say this is society, but since I was taken out of school, and well, when I was taken out of school, I was part of this unschooling, homeschooling, whatever one it was, group. Yeah. And I was part of that group for a while, and then my family kind of just got kicked out of it.
Same here!
And so after, it's been around 2 years since that happened. And basically, after that happened, I had 0 interactions with people for a very long time until I found Pun, basically. And so up until that point, I barely talked to any people that was outside my family. I didn't really have any friends, and I think that kind of contributed in a way where it's like, I just might get kicked out of this group one day. But I know that hopefully won't happen with Pun.
Pun being pureunschooling.net.
Yes. It's so much easier to say Pun because we're so used to it.
Mm-hmm.
We've named it Pun. It's the Pun baby. I have the same situation as Willow. I was taken out of school at an early age. It took us a few years to actually find a group that was like accepting of homeschool kids and that like was full of homeschool kids. And then people started slowly leaving. We got since it's more popular, I guess, to be homeschooled if you're Christian, we got kicked out because we're not Christian. Yeah.
Well, when I was taken out of school, I was in Florida, and then we moved to Ohio. Like, that kind of happened with getting out of school and moving kind of happened all at once. So it didn't help that I basically, like, I've lived in Ohio basically my whole life, just lived in Florida for 2 years, but I don't remember anyone from when I did live in Ohio except, like, family. So that didn't help. And also finding a homeschool group that wasn't Christian or any of that was a little difficult, but we were able to find one. We tried stuff like 4-H before, but it's just, it doesn't work out for us a lot of times.
And we even joined a group that said they weren't religious, but it's the moment I told like the girl who, or the mom who put it all together, as soon as I told her I was pagan, or that my family was pagan, she was like, you can't speak to my daughters anymore. And I was like, as a little, I was 7 at the, no, I was 8 at the time. And I was like, what? Like, what?
Horrible.
Yeah.
I was once in, like, I was a part of a homeschool group. It was, like, just a meetup, and I went there, and I like Harry Potter, and, like, I brought up Harry Potter or something, and they were very against Harry Potter because they were like, oh, that's, like, witch stuff, and it was a very religious group. And, yeah, that's why I like the unschooling world. It's, like, I feel like I can express myself more there, and people are always like, oh, well, don't you make less friends if you're an unschooler and not in school? But, like, I feel like I have more social anxiety when it comes to being in school. Like, around unschoolers, I could just be myself.
Yeah, if you're in school, you kind of are pressured for some things while you're in school. But when you're unschooled, you're more open to be yourself. But then there's the groups that are super religious, which happens a lot. So then it's like, you're more open to be yourself, but then when you be yourself in these big religious groups and you're not religious, that kind of creates the problem of like,
That's
yeah, I
an
was supposed
anxiety on itself.
yes.
I got shunned by the newest homeschool group that I met this year, actually. Willow's heard the story about them. There were these two twins, and they had three younger brothers. It was two twin girls, two twin boys, and a little newborn boy. The twin girls were my age. They were, I think, 14. And so, like, they came up to me, like, they must have been, like, freshly homeschooled. Like, they started homeschooling that year. Because, like, I came up to them and they didn't talk to me. They didn't try. I tried bringing up music. And personally, music is one of the best things to bond over is because I like all types of music. But I was going through my punk phase. Still am going through my punk phase. And they basically shunned me because I liked My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, Green Day, so on and so forth. And they also, they continued the shunning because they were super into pop. So I was like, I mean, I like some pop. Not a huge fan of it currently, but it was good. And like then they brought up the topic of books, and I was like, oh, I like books. Books are fun. And then they went down the Harry Potter path, and I was like, I'm not a huge fan of Harry Potter. I pretty much dislike it. And it breaks a lot of people's hearts when I say that, but my childhood, that's how I grew up. Harry Potter was forced into my life, and I rejected it. So, like, they were like, oh, you don't like Harry Potter. Like, they were, like, super appalled with it. And I was like, just a book series, guys.
All
Just a
right.
book series.
So we should probably wrap back around to anxiety and
yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to be rude.
Yes.
Well,
Not at all.
we should
So-
probably go on break soon.
Oh yeah,
And then-
probably.
Oh yeah.
We can probably start up afterwards, and we might have a new person afterwards.
All right. So
Oh,
do you
maybe.
want to go on break now?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
All right. Well, we're gonna go to break and see you after it.
Yeah.
We all know that there are many benefits of participating in physical activity, and in this video we're going to focus on the physical benefits. The main benefits we're going to cover are the effects on the cardiovascular system, body composition, muscular strength, muscular endurance, and flexibility. Exercise, or any kind of physical activity, improves the cardiovascular system. I want you to remember that one of the main organs in this system is the heart. And it's also worth remembering that the heart is made up of muscles which are called cardiac muscles. Like all muscles in the body, if we exercise them, they become stronger and increase in size. This in turn will then decrease the resting heart rate. This is because the heart is now bigger and stronger and can supply the same amount of blood with fewer beats. This means that the heart does not have to work as hard and is less stressed. The average person will have a resting heart rate of around about 70 beats per minute. But for an Olympic athlete such as Mo Farah, his resting heart rate would be as low as 40 beats per minute. A heart this strong is sometimes known as bradycardia, or athlete's heart. The next benefit to this system is a faster recovery rate. This means that your resting heart rate recovers back to normal at a faster speed. Okay, so we've covered the heart, but now let's start looking at the blood. Another benefit of participating in exercise on the cardiovascular system is that we have an increase in the number of red blood cells. Remember, these are the guys that carry all of the oxygen around the body to our working muscles. So participating in exercise, particularly aerobic exercises such as swimming, cycling or running, will help to increase the red blood cell count that we have in our body. This overall will help us to improve our athletic performance. Another benefit is that we will also increase the amount of capillaries that we have in our bodies. Remember, capillaries are the smallest of the blood vessels. So if we can increase the amount of these, we can get the oxygen to where it needs to be more quicker and more efficiently. All of these different benefits are going to also help to aid in dropping our resting blood pressure and reducing the risk of cardiovascular diseases such as coronary heart disease, stroke and heart attack. So that's the cardiovascular system covered. Let's move on and look at the next benefit. The next benefit we're going to talk about is body composition. For some people, physical activity can help with weight control. As I'm sure you already know, playing sport or doing exercise burns body fat and increases lean muscle mass. This in itself will help to reduce the risk of developing diseases linked to high levels of body fat, such as heart disease, high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. Okay, so we've already spoken about how the heart muscles become bigger and stronger. We're now going to look at the actual muscles of the musculoskeletal system. So of course, if we exercise, if we go to the gym and lift weights, our muscles naturally become bigger and stronger, which means that they're able to burn more calories when we are at rest. Our ligaments and our tendons will also become stronger, which therefore reduces the risk of injury. Our muscles will also develop in their muscular endurance ability, meaning that we can exercise them for longer and we won't feel as fatigued as quick. And finally for now, flexibility. Increasing the flexibility of our muscles, ligaments and tendons makes our daily activities easier and helps us to prevent or at least limit the severity of injuries that we get from playing different sports. Improving our flexibility through sport or physical activity can also help us to increase the blood supply that we get to our muscles, which will also help us to recover more quickly from physical activity. Other health benefits include the ability to fight off illnesses more effectively. Now I'm not talking about illnesses such as the common cold or flu, but more serious illnesses such as heart attack, stroke and conditions such as type 2 diabetes. So I'm sure you'll agree with me, the benefits of physically participating in sport or exercise are massive, and we're just talking currently about the physical benefits. My next videos I'm going to be looking at the social benefits and the emotional benefits. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Subscribe, tune in and thanks for watching.
Hi.
Hello again.
All
We're here
right.
again.
So before we went to break, I was going to start a conversation about anxiety caused by the American school system amongst kids. And today we actually have someone who's in the American school system. So
Hello.
it'd be nice to have a, less biased view because we're unschooled, so our view of the American school system isn't the best.
I
mean,
get
it's
all
not.
of mine through movies. So I don't really know what goes down there, man.
I mean, there are some similarities between the movies and real life. Although I don't go to a public school, I go to a private Catholic school. I am not a Catholic myself, which really that is also a whole different bias on the Catholic school system. But I can give some insight into how peers work with each other in the lunchroom and how it's almost, there's a social hierarchy there without a doubt. Not as horrible as like what you'd see in Mean Girls or Heathers or some very social, I see that, social high school movies. But, there's always those cliques, there's always the rumors, and of course there is the teachers and schoolwork, which all adds up to a whole lot of anxiety and in some cases very severe depression, mild to severe depression. I know for me, I have not been diagnosed with any mental illness, though I do speculate I may have generalized anxiety due to going from pre-K through 11th grade now in the American school system with teachers that are either very understanding or very not understanding. I take all honors and 2 AP classes in my school. And you'd think, oh, well, it's not the same as private schools are different than public schools, so it's probably less work. Not at all. The homework that I receive and the classwork that I receive can take me from 4 hours to 8 hours, depending on the day, depending on how generous the teacher is feeling, and depending on how much time we have in class to get it done. And it's an interesting environment. I personally hate the school environment, but I love being with people my age and getting to talk to my friends almost every day. But it's a full plate. It's 6 hours a day, and then on top of it, 4 to 8 hours of homework. So you're working pretty much from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, no breaks except for a 20-minute lunch. It's timetable. There's no time for dilly-dallying. You know, you get that one class where you're like, oh yes, study, thank God, and then it's right back into the swing of things. And I know for most of my friends in the honors classes and AP classes, I get texts all the time saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I don't know how I'm going to be able to see tomorrow. And it's rough because we're all in that same boat of being so frightened of what the next day is going to bring. Shoot, did we have a test? I don't know. Did we? Gets in the class, of course we had a test. You know, no one studied for the test. All failed the test. Or that one kid that gets in 100 and roughs up the scaling for everybody. And it's such a fickle environment. It depends on the day, depends on the season, depends on the person you're sitting next to. And it takes a toll on a lot of kids. It takes a toll on me, definitely. I had my own little mental breakdown around Wednesday of last week. It was rough, but it's also my own fault because I take a lot of extracurricular, you know what I mean. And, you know, you can't put too much on yourself, but at the same time, in a school environment, you're very much encouraged to put that on yourself. I don't know if anyone has any input.
That's very well said. I really appreciate
Yes,
it.
it was.
Thank you.
I can
I'm so
definitely
sorry
relate
for
with
you.
everything you said.
I mean, that's life. That is the way it goes.
Yeah, it was definitely the same for me when I was in school, and I've been to every like type of school, and it's just always either kids like picking on you, or it's too much work, or you're not learning enough. It's always something different.
It's because the curriculum's not geared towards one singular person. It's geared towards 100 or 300 kids. And it has to be, they can't customize it like you could for homeschooling. I don't know anything about the homeschooling system, so I could not speak for you guys. That would be a whole other thing that I could not speak to. But definitely being in a school community, in a school environment, it's rough, but there are rougher things.
I have a friend who seems like she's going through a few mental breakdowns a day. And I feel really bad because she is also in the AP honor roll classes, and I'm like, maybe you should chill out a little bit. She's when it's volleyball season, she also does volleyball, and then she just like, when I know her life is going like at fast, like max speed, is when she doesn't talk to me at all. Like maybe I'll get like one text a month being like, hey, I'm not dead. But I can see on her social media that she's just, it's so much for her. And I'm sitting over here like, wow, I really feel bad. And then it makes me glad that I don't have all of this pressure building up. But then again, there's also a lot of pressure. I mean, for me personally, there's pressure to make friends because I'm a social butterfly. Like at times I can be a social butterfly. I like the social experience, but at times I just want to be an introvert and not talk to anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's probably like one of the biggest pressures.
One of the biggest
it's also
things
depending and all the things for unschoolers, I think, is making friends.
Absolutely.
And I think obviously it's also different for every person, because there's some people like the Sudbury School, like that's not technically unschooling, but it's not like a normal school environment. But like with that, at least you go to a building and you're able to be in this social group with people and all that. And if you want to socialize, you can and all that. But with in the like homeschool, unschool, whatever, if you're not in a group or don't just have friends automatically that aren't in school or that are in school or anything like that, then it's very hard to actually find people that you can be friends with if you're not in the group or anything, because it's just hard to find people that you're able to hang out with and that aren't just taken up by the pressures of school every single day and you only get to hang out with twice a month.
Makes sense. I don't know, outside of you wonderful folk, I don't know many people who are not in school with me or in school near me at all times. Really, it's just a matter of finding the right, in a high school, or even in a middle school, it's, sorry. No. Sorry. Someone was knocking. I'm on. Sorry.
Well, what she was just saying with the middle school and all that, I just want to mention that I think that's also harder than high school because people are annoying in
Sorry,
school.
Father. Yes. It's a totally different environment than being able to have a curriculum at your own pace. I know for me, I'm not good at math, which is my main source of stress. I often have, I don't want to say panic attacks because they're not quite panic attacks, but during those classes where teachers are like, well, I don't think you're smart enough to be here, sweetie. Oh, I know I'm not, but I'm here. So you have to teach me. But it doesn't work that way. They can do whatever they want at whatever pace they want.
You shouldn't ever be told that you're not smart enough to be in something. That's just
I know
horrible.
that. I know that. That's why I hate that teacher.
So teachers are, it's like, oh, well, you have to be smart enough for this. It's not like I can teach you.
Very true.
That's kind of how it works. You're supposed to teach the person.
And of course, you are being taught things, but not at your own pace all the time. Sometimes it's too slow, sometimes it's too fast. And that definitely contributes to a lot of health problems that I've seen and experienced myself within the student body. I know at least 3 of my close friends that have severe anxiety. I have a friend who is now graduated and is going to a pretty good college. I'm very proud of her. She has a lot of rough patches, mostly built upon by her years of school and the psychological damage that comes from being in an environment where you can't escape the people who torment you. That's another thing about the school system. You can't escape the people who want to tear you down. There's no way to do it unless, of course, that person says, well, I'm getting out of here, or gets expelled. That's happened a couple of times. Kids that get booted because they're picking fights with everyone. And it's psychologically damaging to a degree where it becomes an issue. There's not really more to say than that, just the fact that students are people too. And I think that's what people need to realize across the board, whether you're in a school system, whether you're unschooled, whether you've never been to school at all. We're all the youth. We're the future. So stop tearing us down.
There's something
I wanted to bring up. Sorry, you
sorry. While we're still on the subject, before we move on to a different subject, something everyone needs to know is mainly the people you see get torn down are usually the people that are the smartest or that will someday run the world. So they're really, you're tearing down the person that could stop climate change or that could make a bomb and kill us all just because of the one bully he had in high school that gave one too many swirlies.
That is true.
Something I wanted to bring up really quick was just like friends that I have that are currently in school, like over the summer, they'll talk to me. And then in school, once they go back to school, they stop talking to you because they have this pressure to hang out with all the people that are in their class. And that would happen to people I was in class with when I was in school. Like they'd be like, oh, want to hang out over the summer? And wouldn't hear from them. And then like in school, they'll be my best friend because it's the people you're forced to be around.
It's also the social hierarchy where it's like, well, if I'm seen with you, they're going to think I'm a loser. And that's very similar to what you see in movies. It's like, okay, I can't associate with you because that would make me less desirable for the people to climb the social ladder. And I'm guilty of it. It's horrible, but I mean, it's a survival tactic and it's absolutely disgusting and horrible, and it is psychologically damaging to all parties involved. But
it seems like it's just covering yourself. You're making sure you don't get bullied, so you don't hang out with the person that is getting bullied. Kind of like if you see like one of your friends get, let's say, on a brief like sensitive topic, like let's say you watched someone who had like something really horrible happen to them, and that like that person that did the horrible thing is still like on the loose going, so you think, oh, if I don't be seen with you, it won't happen to me. Thinking more outside of the school.
And a lot of that doesn't even happen within classrooms. It happens at the lunchroom, which
the cafeteria.
The cafeteria. It is
That's brutal
jungle. And the school lunches are horrible. For the most part. There are every once in a while a good lunch day. But the question is it healthy for you to be eating school?
No. Not
Does
at all.
Does it mean I'm going to stop eating them? No.
Well, if you don't pack your lunch or anything, you don't get anything else for the rest of the school day.
It's very expensive too, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, I think that's why people should pack their lunch or at least try to do something like that.
Bring some snacks at the least. Come on.
Well,
yeah,
the
snacks.
thing is not every family has the wherewithal or the time to do that. I mean, a lot of families, their parents are working multiple jobs, and like school for them is almost like daycare for their kid, and that bring in a ton of money. So their kid ends up eating school food, and that's just what they end up eating. And it's really unfortunate that that's the situation. Wish the school food was better, but it's not. It's really bad. It's bad when I was in school. Like, I have vivid memories of the pizza in school. It was just like a triangle of grease when the cheese would slide off, and it was just it was really bad.
I know what you mean.
I never had that feeling of gross pizza because my uncle works for the pizza place that used to deliver pizzas for every Wednesday for my school. So I got to eat pizzas he made.
That's awesome.
I know that at least in my old middle school, we used to have like a certain schedule, like hot dogs, pizza, ice cream. And that was incredibly unhealthy, like to the max unhealthy. And then they tried implementing a healthier choices. It would be like a different thing every day. It was really just as unhealthy. It looked like broccoli, but was it though? Probably not.
Was it? Who knows?
Probably not.
Like, do I want to know what that was?
Which brings me to wonder, why is the food that schools are serving not going to be beneficial for the student? Is it really...
They don't care. They don't seem to care about it.
Well,
and that's not even just private schools, it's public schools, especially public schools.
Yeah, when I went to private school, it was like you had to pay for your lunch or bring one. And then at public school, it was like, we're plopping some weird red thing on your plate with little green vegetable things in it. And you don't know what it is. And
you just hope
like, then we had an occasional pizza and hot dog day, literally. And it was just horrible. It was
Yeah, that doesn't sound good. There's one thing I wanted to mention. My older sister goes to this, I can't remember what kind of school it is, but it's this newer school, and the whole school was based around kids who had trouble with school. Like, they always got in trouble or something like that. But that's not the main point. They do lunch there, obviously, but they actually do have, like, a whole salad bar thing for the kids. Like, they actually do have stuff that you can pick instead of just unhealthy, greasy pizza and all that stuff. And it's such a good school because it does proper meals, and you can learn at your own pace. It's a great school.
That does sound like a nice school. School itself is flawed, and that's a whole other can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
But just the fact that school can make so many people so sick physically because of lack of sleep, or because of the food they're eating, or because of just the stress put on them, or
Just
mentally,
physically and mentally sick.
It's horrifying just to watch these kids coming in like 6th grade, because my high school is 6th grade through 12th grade. These kids coming in so excited, like, wow, we're gonna be in high school, or we're in high school freshman year, and just watching the light just leave their eyes bit by bit. And it's such a sad thing to watch. But it's preparing these kids for the crushing reality
The real world.
of the real world.
Why should that be reality? Just all this pressure and everything that makes them sick. Why does that have to be the reality?
I wonder.
And
that
going
every
to
day.
college and all that. Why does that all have to just be horrible?
I wonder that
It's
every
so
day.
sad.
Every day.
There's so much stress put on the kids who want to go to good colleges, or whose parents are like, you have to get into a good college.
And even more stress on the kids that don't necessarily have the funds to go to a good college.
Oh, so
but
they have to be like
they need to get these scholarships, these full boats or partial scholarships to get in. And I see that so much. My greatest friends are like, I can't fail. If I fail this, if I fail this, if I fail this. And it's like, you need to calm down. But at the same time, I'm just like that. Except I'm not in a situation where I necessarily have to have a full boat. So there's at least that pressure taken off of me. But so many others.
There's going to be pressure on the homeschool kids, especially getting to college.
Oh.
You're either going to be drowning in student loans or debt, or maybe you're one of those lucky kids that just gets a scholarship. But it seems like 9 times out of 10 you're going to be drowning in student loans.
I have seen a lot that some unschooled or homeschooled kids end up getting opportunities like that for college because they are smart. And so they get like their scholarships or college paid for by something. And that's just sad for the people in community school, because maybe those kids don't necessarily want to go to college like the unschoolers. But the people in public school really want to. And it's also sad that you have to pay so much just to go to college to end up getting a good job.
Which ties into that fear of the future. Because I know for me, that's where most of my anxiety stems from, the fear of the future. Is there going to be enough money? Is there going to be enough jobs in the economy? Is there going to be enough? Am I going to be able to live my life? That's my biggest brush with mental health, and like just that terror of the unknown. That for me, it was mostly school that instills that, because every day, this is important. You need to know this, or you're not going to go to college, and you're not going to get a job, and you're not going to get money.
I know, but even knowing that thing that doesn't mean it's something you're ever going to use ever again.
Exactly. Like mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Thanks. Gee, thanks.
My mom kind of put on a lot of stress with like what I wanted to be, because for my entire childhood it was, what do you want to be? That would be one of the main questions I got asked, especially being homeschooled, because a lot of people were appalled when I told them I was homeschooled. They're like, so you don't go to school? And I was like, no, my mom teaches me at home. Now I say I do everything on the computer because my mom works 4 jobs. But like, she put on a lot of pressure because she was like, where are you going to go to college? What are you going to do with your life? And right now I have decided on being a meteorologist. Master's in meteorology, bachelor's in engineering. Meteorology is one of those things that won't ever become a dead knowledge, or won't ever, like, it'll still matter. And that's kind of stressed, like, that's something all the kids need to find is, whatever you're doing with your life, make sure it's not going to become like something that's not going to be relevant in 10 years.
Which is becoming harder and harder.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more and more that you have to pick something with technology, like code-based things or graphic or anything on a computer, because that's the age we live in now. And my problem is my mom was like, you should be a graphic designer. I'm like, I hate code, because I do. Code is one of the most stressful things to do.
Absolutely. And if you're not good with numbers, what are you going to do?
I think though, if you do want to learn it, you should.
Yeah, especially if you have an interest in it, go for it.
Exactly.
One thing is, I know there are a lot of people who are always like, college is like the #1 option. You can't do anything else. You need to go to college. I am not one of those people at all. And so with college, I'm just like, I don't want to go, and I don't even know what I'm doing in college. It's just something I'm kind of iffy about right now. And with more about it, just people are like, you need to go to college to get a good job and all that.
Which totally mounts on that pressure. It all kind of circles back to that stress. Stress, I feel, is the biggest culprit for bad health in youth, because it contributes to all aspects, whether it be physical or mental, because some people, if they're stressed, they don't eat. Some people, if they're stressed, they eat too much. Some people, if they're stressed, they don't get enough sleep. Some people, if they're stressed, they just say, meh, and sleep all day. It just totally messes you up. And that, you got to go to college, you got to do this, you have to do that. It all just piles up until it's unbearable. I think that is a leading cause of bad health in youth, at least.
I thought something that we should probably bring up now about healthcare and all that. Maybe if someone knows quite a bit about it or anything, but might as well talk about it a little bit, even if not everyone knows everything about it.
I know absolutely nothing.
What is it? Pre-existing conditions. Anyone know anything about with the new healthcare? I know that what people put as the new pre-existing conditions, there you go, are stupid, and that's one thing. How about healthcare should be paid by the government? And there's some right there in my eye.
I think it's necessary that the government does get some form of national health care, because look at all these other countries that are doing so much better on that front than us. The Netherlands, Canada, they have this totally universal, not universal, you know what I mean, national health care. But there, of course, are different situations. Healthcare is great for the immediate like I'm dying right now. I need to get to the hospital right now. And that's great. That's great for healthcare. But when you have a pre-existing illness that requires you to keep going, I don't know much about it. All I know is that, like, from clips and bits that I've heard from the news, is that the costs are different, and it's such a rough thing. But I do think that the government should have some sort of national health care, without a doubt.
Well,
it's necessary.
With the pre-existing conditions, there's one. Being pregnant is a pre-existing condition by what I've heard, like with this new bill and all that. And with being pregnant, yeah, you can probably go to the doctors a few other times after you have your child, but that's not consistent. Like, you go every week or something like that. So, like, why would that be a pre-existing condition if you don't end up going so much that it runs the bills up? But with, like, Canada has good universal health care, and with pre-existing conditions, like, yeah, it can run you to the hospital a whole bunch and all that. And it is more money, but you're helping people not go broke just because they need to go to the hospital.
Absolutely.
Well, there are two main arguments against it. I'm 100% for it, but what the people who are against it are saying, I disagree with it, is one, there's the stubborn argument that, like, well, I don't want to pay taxes for something that I'm not going to immediately benefit from. Like, I don't go to the hospital. There's that, which is
no,
crazy.
but you can benefit from it at some point.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's why they're wrong. And there's also just the belief that something like this and having a government in control of this and is the start of, you know, more government control and then leading to more of like a socialist government. And the people who are against universal health care are really against that type, as they would be. I mean, conservatives. Don't want to point fingers. But yeah, we should definitely, I am all for something like that. Like, that would be amazing. Like, people, you shouldn't go bankrupt because you have to get something done.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the last thing people that are unwell need to worry about is not having the money to get well.
Yeah,
that's the last thing they need to be worried about.
Exactly.
It's terrible. It's a really unfortunate situation, but that's the situation currently. Like, that's not good.
One thing I saw is this person was talking about getting their hip replaced in America, and with how much it costs, it was like $44,000 probably to get their hip replaced.
I bet it was more.
And they said I think it's a bit more than that, but the whole thing was they could fly to Spain, get their hip replaced, stay there for 2 years, and the rent for staying there for 2 years they could stay there for 2 years, learn Spanish, run with the bulls, get their hip replaced again, fly back to the U.S., and it would cost less than the whole hip replacement just in the United States.
Oh my God. Wow. That's gotta change.
Rent for 2 years is less than a hip replacement.
That's gotta change.
Yeah.
God. Wow.
People are insane.
I agree that the government should pay for it. It would put us, like, financially, it would put the United States in so much more debt than we already are in. And that was actually but if we are going to pay taxes, there definitely should be, like, a reason we're paying taxes, not just to pay off the United States debt that is going up faster than the money we're making. And
can a country declare bankruptcy? Who knows?
Good question.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
But I definitely agree that if us as if us as citizens are going to pay our taxes to the government, we should benefit from it a little bit.
I don't know, it'd be good with the government paying for health care and all that, but it is a good point with being in debt, but we are paying the taxes for all that, and I don't know, it's just, government stuff and all that.
It is such a tough topic because there's so many different conflicting views and so many factors that go into it. It's not just this or that. But it is so important that people who wouldn't otherwise be able to get the care that they need are able to get the care that they need. It's not okay for people to be dying because they can't pay to get well. That's just ridiculous. And it's totally unjust. But there are so many other factors that go into it.
It's government stuff and work and just so much that's hard to say. Why don't we just start having the government pay for that? Because there's just so much more that has to go into just that part.
This government is whack. Down with the government!
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to bring up for?
Yeah, we should move on. We're kind of going in circles now.
You're right. You're right.
All right. So what's a good segue into something else?
Working with genetics before and after birth, how certain diseases can be stopped if there's that big controversy with playing God, whereas if people look into the genetics of embryos, I believe, I'm not very well versed in this topic, but it did interest me that they can possibly stop certain diseases before they start.
Damn.
By looking into genetics and replacing things, which is some sort of like wild health case.
I mean, people aren't comfortable with like tomatoes being genetically modified, so I'm pretty sure there are going to be some people who are like freaked out about babies or
and of course,
embryos being modified.
It is wild, but it's interesting that like people are worried about playing around with genetics when in reality it can help. I don't know what you guys think of it, but I think if it's able to help the future child, I think it would be the only option, the only right option to aid that child.
I think like if it works really well, I don't see any problem with it. I mean, that science is really fascinating. Like that's really cool.
Very.
Almost want to research that. Just do a little reading on it. Because that sounds really cool. But if it works and they can figure it out, yeah. It's like the ultimate vaccine, but it's not a vaccine because it's stopping it before you even need it.
Exactly. It was just a little idea, just a little topic that I thought should be brought up.
What are your guys' opinion on marijuana for medicine?
I think it really helps certain things. And if like people who get epileptic seizures, it really helps them. And people who have that one disorder.
PTSD?
It helps with PTSD, but there's another one. It's the one that kind of inhibits motor control. And it's really debilitating. Anyway.
I think I know what you're talking about. Like they don't have control over their body does. Yeah.
It really helps those people. And if it helps them, then, by all means.
It also helps with anxiety because my uncle has anxiety and it helps him.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things it could help with. I have friends that use marijuana. I mean, it's not prescribed to them, but it does help. It does help them with their anxiety and with. I have a friend who has like problems breathing, and so being able to calm down and like. You'd think it'd be counterproductive, but it does help because that calms the instead of hyperventilating, it keeps the breathing even. So it helps them. But I do think sometimes people say it's for medical reasons and then it's not, even though marijuana has no damaging effects on the brain. I do think people should be more cautious and more conservative of how they use it.
I'm not against using marijuana for medicine, and especially if you're underage, if you need it to help you to get even through life with like anything, then go for it. But if it's for fun or to look cool, don't do it until you're of age, please.
Yeah, there are side effects for people who are under the age of like 25 because until you're like 25, your frontal lobe isn't entirely, your hippocampus isn't entirely developed, and the usage of marijuana before it is entirely developed can create some problems with the developing process of hippocampus. And that is one like huge argument against doing it before like 25.
I agree.
I completely agree with that. I do think there are people who benefit from it medically, people with seizures, and then by all means. But yeah, I agree with the waiting. Even so, I did try it once, and it wasn't really much. I don't really recommend it.
Also make sure you don't make sure you don't do edibles, and by that just don't eat a lot of them, because it might not seem like a lot, but it will hit you like a truck. And it's
you kind of say that like you've had experience with it, Willow.
I've never had experience, but I've heard of experiences with edibles. So.
I have seen experiences with edibles.
So have I.
Do not do it.
Just if you're gonna have any, just a little bit, just
a little bit. All you need, man.
Like if it's a brownie, not the whole brownie, just an eighth of the brownie. You're good.
Don't come to class. Hi, please. That's another thing. That's a whole.
Yeah, that wouldn't be fun.
Do it after class, out of school, please.
After class. Now it feels like we're promoting marijuana like that.
I mean, if you do need it for medical reasons, like you have really bad anxiety and you can't sleep at night, or let's say you can't eat, it also helps my uncle eat.
It gives you munchies, and that's what it does.
Yeah, it seriously tells your body, like, bro, you need food. Get some food. And then you think to yourself, and you're like, oh my god, I need food.
It has uses, and it has recreational and medical are very different things, and I feel like people treat them as the same thing a lot of the time when talking about it. But in reality,
but even sorry.
Oh, sorry. You can go. Because I was kind of.
But with recreational, is that right? Yeah, I don't know.
Recreational.
Yes, thank you. I can't speak. Even with that, it's not terrible. It doesn't harm you in any way, but yeah, with having medical and all that, because if they just think they give them to younger kids just to go get high, that's also different than adults just trying it.
Mm-hmm.
Very different. Yeah.
Again, with the age thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wait till you're an adult, please.
As Gavin was saying, it does inhibit the development of the brain in some cases. Not all cases, but many cases. Yeah. So it's best just to lay off for a while. Wait. And a lot of people are on drugs in this.
Drugs,
country.
alcohol, all kinds of stuff like that.
Quick, brief topic. My entire workplace, like according to my brother and my uncle, half of them are always on drugs.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, but not just like weed, like heroin, cocaine, stuff like that.
I know a lot of people, even in my family, have been affected by drug usage, overdoses. I know a girl who almost overdosed. And she was otherwise perfectly healthy. She was just addicted to those pills. She's fine now, a year sober. Good for her. But it's interesting because when people think health, they think, oh, you're not dying of the bubonic plague type of stuff. Or mental health, oh, you're not depressed, you're not anxious. But being on drugs of any kind also contribute to that health. Is it healthy to be on those drugs? Probably not. In some cases, in small doses, perhaps, but not often.
I know that my dad's father used to be addicted to pain medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably one of the worst to get addicted to because they make you feel just free and you don't feel pain, you don't feel anything like that, and it just makes you feel better, but then that means you want more.
Exactly.
And that's not good. Also because that might mean that it might get not banned, but more people can't use it because of people who get addicted. So people that need it might not be able to get it just because people are addicted and just all that.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
Anyone else got anything with overdoses or addicted?
Yeah, I mean that's a real problem, like kind of overlooked problem. The amount of people addicted to prescription drugs specifically, like it's incredible numbers, and it's prescription drugs. It's what you get from your doctor when you have a certain pain or a certain problem. Like it's crazy. Like people like I don't know which specific ones people get addicted to. You hear Xanax a lot, like that's reference the anxiety medication. But there's also a plethora of pain medications, like you were talking about. It's really unfortunate. I don't know. I mean, we can dive into a conversation about this, but this more goes into the problem with the medical industry in our country, and not really about health.
Yeah,
because I mean, this is just about like, oh, why is this okay? Why are people being prescribed addictive medication? And it's not really talked about that much. So kind of a separate conversation. I mean, it's a real issue, but
very true. But does go hand in hand.
Yeah. All right.
Mine's more of on alcohol. My mom's dad had liver cancer from drinking a bottle of vodka every day.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
I just see faces and nothing. I don't hear any noise. It's just a whole bunch of surprised faces.
That is.
And my grandma had a drug addiction. Like, she phased in and out of drugs. Cocaine, heroin, and like almost any and all drugs she could find. She was addicted to even while she was pregnant with my aunt.
How about people who, teens who do drugs and alcohol, not even just on their own because they think it's cool, but because they're peer pressured? Or something like that.
Oh, that falls more into like the anxiety and depression area that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Oh. I feel really bad for those people who are pressured into things like that.
I feel like 90% of them
Oh,
are.
I'm lucky to be a part of a group of friends that doesn't, I don't know, they do it, but they don't pressure anyone else around them to.
That's good.
But it doesn't mean that I have never seen it. I've seen like a freshman being pretty much coerced by like 2 sophomores to just, hey, don't worry about it. It's only once. You do it once, not a big deal. Like, like the vaping. They got nicotine in it. And that's just such a senseless drug to get addicted to.
Oh my God, it's so bad. Like,
it's so bad.
It's like the next cigarettes, like, because people are so under the impression that it's so much better for you, and there are elements of it that are better for you, but it's ultimately like just as bad.
It's the tobacco is the worst
less
part.
of the same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I did I went through a phase doing research on it because I was really curious, like, all right, how bad is it? And it's pretty bad, vaping.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
right?
yeah. And it's not to mention it's so, at least in my school, very like papa.
Oh,
you're not cool if you do it, but people still do it anyway because they're addicted to it.
It's so trendy. It's like, oh, you
Yeah.
vape? Oh man, that's so cool.
We get it. You vape.
Oh man.
It's
Yeah.
a social faux pas, but at the same time, it's like,
Mhm.
people are curious. And
Yeah, it's
just-
definitely the new up and coming thing, like vaping instead of other things that were trendy, like back when our parents were younger and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, does this generation really smoke cigarettes that often? Or like, is it mostly vaping now?
I would say it's much
I
more
have
vaping
no
than it
idea.
is cigarettes. Because I know there's that stigma around cigarettes now. It's like, well, now we know for sure cigarettes cause cancer. And even, that's a whole other thing. But people don't really understand, okay, well, if cigarettes are bad, then I can do this instead. But it's just as bad.
It's just
maybe
as
not
bad,
worse,
yeah.
but quite close to being as bad.
Who's to say the new cigarette alternatives aren't worse for your body?
That's true. Who knows?
We don't know yet because they're still new. We don't know what the effects are yet.
And I know for a fact, though, that smoking cigarettes affects 4 generations. The first person that smokes it, the effects and the being predisposed to lung cancer will last until the 4th person in that line. And it just keeps going. Like, I know I'm somewhere in that line, so I am predisposed to lung cancers. I'm sure many people are, even in this.
I am. My
Absolutely.
grandma and my grandfather, my grandma and my grandfather are addicted to cigarettes, so I've been exposed almost my whole life to secondhand smoke.
That's why. And it's a real thing, because it doesn't just affect you, it affects your children and your children's children, not even if they're predisposed to secondhand smoke. If they're just, it's in the genes, it affects so that's a whole other topic of health, how those choices are not just your own.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's another argument for vaping. It's like, oh, the secondhand effects aren't as bad, but there's been studies on that, and they're just as bad. So you're not saving anyone around you either, which that sucks. So yeah.
It's almost time to wrap it up.
Oh, is
wow. Wow, time flew.
So what do we want our final conversation to be?
I quickly wanted to mention with what Lauren said about with the cigarettes and secondhand smoking and all that. That can also happen with eating habits. The way you grew up eating is probably the way you're going to eat, and how if you have kids, how your kids are going to eat. And yeah, you can change it when you get older, but that's like the way you grew up eating. And so that, I thought that kind of fit in. that.
And that even segues into a way earlier topic about how the dietary habits of your ancestors work into your metabolism. I don't remember who brought that up. It was, I thought it might have been you. How that completely, the more you eat something, the more likely your children will be able to digest it. Or
Yeah. And that's not a bad thing. It's like, it just really dictates what you should be eating personally. Like,
yes.
So corn, for like one example, so I was in Mexico for a month and this came up. Corn is something that is not generally digested well. It's not really, in most forms, corn doesn't digest well. But the people in that region of Mexico that I was in, like near Oaxaca, they've been eating corn for generations. Like, it's a large part of their diet. It's, I can attest to that. Like, it's the majority of what I ate. So they've been eating corn for centuries, like millennia. So their bodies are more adept to digesting corn. So, we associate corn with being this thing that has, negative health effects, but their bodies, their stomachs metabolize it, digest it much better than, a white person. And it's really fascinating. And that's just one example.
On the topic of health, before we close our final thoughts, my mom grew up with eating anything and everything in the fridge. And so her dad came up with this like soup thing called everything soup. And it would be right before they went shopping. They would clean out the fridge, and anything that was expired, they'd throw away. But anything that wasn't expired that they weren't going to eat next month, or that was going to expire in like a few days, they would put that into like a soup and eat it like that. So there comes with my childhood as we come up with the craziest things. We have this dish called Noodly Goodness. It's garlic noodles that have like you use milk instead of sauce, and it's paired with chicken and vegetables. But everything based on that plate is garlic.
Wow.
Garlic and onion powder.
That's cool.
It's very delicious.
Sounds very Greek.
Or how most people call, we came up with this another dish, like I have two more dishes, slop, which is potatoes, meat, green beans, and then you pile on tomato soup. Delicious. My friend calls it ragu. That's her ragu. Or no, she doesn't. Or I guess her slop is my ragu. Ragu is, we call, another word for what we call it is ghetto spaghetti, which is where you find the randomest noodles you have and you throw some sauce on them.
Damn. All right, so we should go to closing thoughts. And we're 3 minutes, so 2 minutes. Okay. All right, so closing thoughts. For me, stay healthy. No, all right. Just don't eat carbohydrates or drink milk that often, and you're probably good. And do what feels right. And walk at least some.
Just some.
Walk a bit.
Yeah, I do think it's funny we didn't talk about exercise as much as we probably should have. I think my closing statement is like, eat healthy, exercise, and make sure you find healthy coping mechanisms for whatever you might be dealing with.
Yeah.
That is the most important.
My closing thoughts would be, try meditating for all of you kids out there who are like depressed or really anxious. Try right before bed, try meditating. Or wake up like 10 to 20 minutes earlier and try meditating.
That's what my dad does.
It's a nice way you can learn to shut off your mind, turn everything off for just a few minutes. And try not to harm yourselves, please. It's not worth it.
My closing statement is, do what you need to do to be healthy with your own mental and physical needs. Do what you need to do and try relaxing, not getting too stressed out about things.
My closing thoughts would be you. Do not go following other people just because it's a trend, whether it's some kind of mental thing or physical or whatever. Just like, do it for you. Don't do it for other people.
That's great. All right. This has been an excellent talk. All right. See you all later. Oh my God.
See you guys next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
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 If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Mainstream media exists for the purposes of indoctrination and manipulation of public perception. The world of free and independent media is growing, and with the upsurge in information now available in the public domain, it has never been easier to access free and independent media. The exploration of this information resulted in an experimental project which would provide a fully supported space for researchers, whistleblowers, and seekers of all kinds to express themselves and educate the world. On the 1st of January 2015, Conscious Consumer Network was launched to the world. Nobody thought we would make it this far, but CCN is the longest running free and independent media network of its kind. CCN is a unique collaboration of hearts and souls, bringing you information from different perspectives to educate and inform. Since we started CCN, we have had only one desire: the pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world, and this has not changed. Having overcome many challenges over the last 2 years, CCN is here to stay, and we've got great things lined up for 2017. Help keep CCN on the air by supporting the 2017 Network Support Fund.